Hi there everybody, this is David, and today we're going to be ranking every single Breath of Fire game released in English, all 5 of them. This was one of my favorite series growing up, going toe-to-toe with Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and then later on, Wild Arms. It's also one of the most solid franchises, really able to stand the test of time. Beginning on the SNES and then unfortunately ending over on the PS2, we had a hell of a ride reliving the adventures of Ryu and Nina. But hey y'all, before we get started, if you're a new visitor to the channel, please be sure to smash that subscribe button for some reviews and news and tips, and also hit the like button for the ratio. And now let's go ahead and get started with our ranking. First up, Breath of Fire 1, released for the SNES in 1993. This is the game that started it all, and while I do normally extend a bit of grace to the earlier games in a series, and I do love this game, all the other ones in the franchise are just so good that I had to place the first one here. All the basics are introduced, from the light and the dark dragons to the different clans comprising the world, whether they be birds, foxes, wolves, snakes, or moles. This was definitely a departure from some of the more serious RPGs released around the same time. The story's pretty basic. You save the world from the threat of the dark dragons, sort of thing, but the epic music and cool characters do make up for it. Though the mechanics of how the characters work is kind of crummy. You get 8 of them all told, and you can use 4 of them in battle, and you can change them out at any time, which does sound pretty cool in theory. But in actuality, you really just end up using the same 4 characters all the time. That's because Ryu is pretty much mandatory, Nina and Blue are magical powerhouses, and Karn is just ridiculous. But the others, not so much. You pretty much just use everybody as transformation fodder, but that's not the worst part. It commits the cardinal sin of overstaying its welcome. I'm a firm believer that a game should tell a story and then wrap up nicely afterwards. It shouldn't drag on needlessly for hours and hours with horrible sadistic dungeons. I do believe that this would have been much better served if it just ended a few hours after recruiting Blue, instead of dragging on for a year and a day after that. Up next, we have Breath of Fire 5 Dragon Quarter, released for the PS2 in 2003. I do know that many people don't like Dragon Quarter, and even in Japan it wasn't included as a numbered entry. It was classified as a Gaiden or a side story. And a lot of ink has been spilled about the quality of this game, and if it should even be included under the Breath of Fire moniker. And I really don't want to get into that whole thing here. Instead, I'll just say this. It's very different from the rest of the series, but it's still a fun quality game. Just don't come in expecting a traditional JRPG. Instead, here we have a dungeon crawler, a survival type game with fixed encounters that play out almost like a puzzle. You have to use what AP you have available to position the enemies in such a way that you can kill them nicely. It's actually pretty satisfying to use Ryu's sword attacks, along with Lin's gun abilities to push and pull enemies into Nina's traps. As the game is roughly only about 15 hours long, it's actually designed for multiple playthroughs, and each time you do, more story is revealed. That all being said, I do understand the complaints that the graphics are ugly, Nina looks horrible, and that it takes place entirely underground. And I do agree with all of those, but from a purely gameplay standpoint, I actually had a bit of enjoyment with this title. Now we have Breath of Fire 3, released for the PlayStation in 1998. Okay, let's be real here, at this point it's really a race to the top. I am aware that many people out there find this one to be the best one, but I'm not in that camp. Don't get me wrong, it's good, but there's even better Breath of Fires out there. I know that this was probably the first entry for many fans of the series, and as such, there's some sort of nostalgia bias. However, I'm of the belief that if you actually go back and you replay this game in today's day and age, you will find that it's solid, but nothing groundbreaking. And it also commits some pretty cardinal sins, such as dragging on forever. The battles are ridiculously slow, spell animations take forever, the traditional world map is gone, and let's not even go into the obscene amount of mini-games that are present. A cool addition, though, is the Blue Magic learning system, where you examine an enemy to learn their abilities. And this is really neat in theory, but in practice, It just makes the battling grind to a halt, since many times you have to examine a monster like 10 times just to learn their stupid skills. I really do like the storyline, as well as the characters and the world that they've created. And this is the only game in the series where Ryu grows from a child to an adult. And in that time jump, the world changes too, as you see the implications of your childhood actions. Honestly, this game here would be number 1 if a remake came out that trimmed all the fat and greatly increased the battle speed. Now at number 2, we have Breath of Fire 4, released for the PlayStation in 2000. While all the Breath of Fires have amazing stories, some are definitely better than others. And I've got to say that this is probably the most story-driven game in the entire franchise. The world is divided into 2 different empires, the Eastern Kingdoms, which consist of Windia, as well as other surrounding nations, and then the Foe Empire, modeled after the ancient Far East. The 2 empires are locked into an uneasy truce as Nina and Cray set off on a journey to find Alina, Nina's missing sister, and it's then that they run into Ryu, the reincarnation of the Yore dragon, who's also been split in 2, as both Ryu and Folu. Then there's the Endless, or the Dragons, who watch over the entire world. It's a lot to take in, but it's really cool and well done, and you actually get a chance to play as both the hero and the villain, as well as seeing Folu grow and change over the course of the game, and then you get to really see why he is the way that he is. The world map unfortunately has been reduced even more than it was in the 3rd installment, and the art style has changed. It's pretty unique, utilizing pastels and sepia tones rather than the previously used bright, vibrant colors. The best change, though, comes in the battle system, because now all 6 of your characters can really participate together in battle. Similar to Final Fantasy X, you can swap them out at any time, but those in the rear will also support your characters in the front row with healing, buffs, or attacks. A combo system has been included as well, where you can combine spells together to create devastating multi-elemental attacks, and the Master system has been greatly improved upon. Rather than just leveling up under Masters, you have to fulfill specific requirements. It's all the good things of the 3rd game, just a bit more refined. Too bad they didn't get rid of those torturous, unending minigames, though. And finally, at number 1, we have Breath of Fire 2, released for the SNES in 1995. Now we've made it to what I believe to be the quintessential Breath of Fire experience. With fun, memorable characters all clearly defined in their own niche and useful for many situations, seriously gorgeous top-notch graphics, pushing the SNES to the peak of its capabilities, and easily the most beautiful Nina the series has ever seen. The bright environments and beautiful, lush world map just pull you in, and there's a lot of variety in the dungeon designs, from mountains to towers to underwater areas, and even going into the body of a queen. You will never get bored. The Shaman system is much better than Karn's transformation system, and it also predates the Master system. It's innovative and gives a second life to the characters who may have otherwise grown stagnant over the course of the game. Some familiar faces return, and the storyline kind of shocked me as a child. I mean, now it's kind of trite, but back in the day, having a church be out and out evil was pretty groundbreaking. All that being said, the only downside that I can see is that translation. Capcom, in all their hubris, thought that they could translate this behemoth of a game after outsourcing the first one to Square. And it's embarrassing, to say the least. But stick a patch on it and you're good to go with what I consider to be the best RPG in the entire series. So, that's it for all the mainline English released Breath of Fire games ranked. How would you rank the series? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video and wanted to hear on the channel, please consider supporting me over on Patreon, heading on over to Twitch for some streaming fun, or joining the Discord to chat and hang out. The links to them all can be found in the video description. This has been David, and if you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.